Number 2, I have 2 questions. One of the foundations of the movement is that human behavior has been greatly misunderstood. Due to culture lag on what human nature is and things like religion maintaining dated ideas, do you know of strong contemporary studies that would help reinforce the movement's ideas? Though I greatly appreciate the work of the likes of Stuart Chase, Ralph Linton, Graham Wallace, and the studies date back to 1950s and earlier, they don't appear to grab much public attention. This seems so important as statements like, quote, you've forgotten about the human being, or, quote, what if I want 100 computers, always comes up in discussions. This is a question more for Jacques and Roxanne, though. Peter, if you have an opinion, I'd love to hear it. You recommended James Harvey Robinson's The Mind in the Making. Do you have any opinion on the New School for Social Research in New York? Excuse my reading patterns here. I'm not giving enough cadence to these punctuation points. Do you have any opinion on the New School for Social Research in New York, of which he was a founding member, James Harvey Robinson? Do you think their approach has remained faithful to the ideas put forward in The Mind in the Making? I think, well, let's see, let me go linear here. I would agree with your points on human nature. I really like the work of Dr. Robert Sapolsky when it comes to his very objective investigation, his anthropological work, and his neurobiological work. The Problem with Testosterone is a great book by Dr. Robert Sapolsky, and he basically reinforces the important element that while there are propensities in the human being that are genetically culminated, they have to be triggered. And it's the environment that does these things. And I think that's really all that needs to be understood. It doesn't mean that just because you have a genetic disposition that it's always going to be a variance. Not necessarily. There's things like Huntington's disease, which if you have the genetic structure for this disease, you're pretty much 100% you're going to get this disease. It's just one of those severities. But that isn't necessarily behavior. We're talking about human actions, conscious actions, things that people do when they conduct their general operations. And those attributes are provably, holistically cultural, and they have to be learned. So anyway, I love Stuart Chase and all the other individuals you mentioned. They're a little bit more philosophical on these notions. I think you have to go to biologists to really get a full, clear understanding of these abstractions of human instinct and human nature. I think Jacques Loeb is another one that did great research, and of course B.F. Skinner, who is considered a controversial figure. He's been claimed to be debunked by various people, which I find absurd. But nevertheless, there's a lot of good information out there. It's just not the type of subject that a lot of scientists feel they want to talk about. There's just not much social conscience in these academic communities if you pay attention. Moving forward with your question, and yes, I'll try to make a note to mention this to Jacques as far as the issue you bring up. The New School for Social Research. I went to the New School for Social Research in the music department. I dropped out after 2 years. I'm not quite sure if the school functions just like any other function, like any other school functions. It's low budget, the facilities are poor, the methodology is no different than anything I've seen in any other college. So I don't think the adherence to Mind in the Making was denoted. It might be in their theoretical written stuff, but it certainly wasn't applied. I didn't like the school.